Hello, welcome to Wondermous, a healthcare leadership journey. My name is Merikay Hunt, and I am your host. And today I am thrilled to have a friend, a client, and a sister in Jesus with me, Miss Janet Woodall. She is the founder of Rockingham Revenue Services. Janet, why don't you share with our audience a little bit about you, your background, and what inspired you to start your own company?
Of course. Thank you, Mary Kay. So excited to be on your podcast today and thrilled to share the things that have happened in my life and hope that it helps someone else. I'm Janet Woodall. I've been married for almost 32 years. My husband, Shane, and I have two daughters and three grandkids. Yes, I'm a grandma or a Jan. I'm a Jan. It sounds a lot younger than a grandma.
Love it.
But anyway, I love every moment of it. I love being able to have my own business and start my own business and just being in the leadership to be able to help other people and their company grow, and we just be kind of an extension of their offices. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And when did you start your journey in healthcare?
I started, goodness gracious, Mary Kay, it's been 1,000 years ago. I think it was 2004 is when I started working in healthcare at a front desk at a podiatry office.
Mhm.
Loved that experience. That was back in the day when you pulled charts, filed charts. Charts were in the back of the doctor's car, at their house, those kind of things where you're trying to hunt for everything. But I literally did everything, learned so much there, loved that side of the business. Um, and doing just helping patients, make appointments and make sure they're taken care of. And once I got into that, I really felt like, I really would love to be a manager. I had a great manager that I worked for. Her name is Carolyn. She has since passed on, but
Oh,
she was a wonderful manager. And I thought, I could do this. Like, I could be a manager. Like, I love doing this. I love being I kind of in that office. I normally was by myself a lot. So, really, I did have to manage my time by myself.
mhm.
And so it's kind of got the got the excitement of being a leader and going into that industry.
Nice. And then where did you go after that position? And the
So
reason
my
I'm asking is because I kind of want to inspire younger people that are starting in their healthcare walk
yeah,
to see how the progression of positions and roles can help lay a foundation of success.
sure. Sure, absolutely. So after that, when I left there, I decided to stay home with my daughter for just a little while, and I realized that I was not a stay-at-home mom, and that's okay if you're not.
That's right.
I love that season, but I missed people,
Mhm.
other people, and that kind of stuff. And I really liked being in the medical field, so I went back to school and got my associate's degree in business management. And then from there, after I got that degree, my first management position was in 2007 at a practice in Eden that I worked for a family practice. And so it was two providers there. And I learned a ton while I was
Mhm.
there because it was my first management experience. Loved working for those providers, loved the office. Um, Doing management and the revenue cycle piece all at the same time gave me the love for what I do now, is how I look at it. And while I was there, they had some issues with some credentialing stuff, and I had never done credentialing before.
Mhm.
And I was able to fix some issues that they had. And then they approached me and was like, at that time, they had started adding new practices. And so they were like, do you think you would want to help us, with these other credentialing issues? But on top of doing your management job, of course, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, yeah, of course. I tell everybody, I was like, as long as it's not illegal or immoral, I said yes. I mean, like,
Yeah.
whatever they wanted, I did it. And so that led me to being a group practice manager. So I was over a few other offices. And while I was there, because they had added on so many offices, my director at the time, who I adored, she such a wonderful leader. Her name is Vicky, and her and I went to the board. And was like, we need to centralize this. You've
Mm.
got managers who have no revenue cycle experience doing claims, and that's too expensive for them to lose out on dollars and
Sure.
that kind of stuff. So we created a prioritization department and a centralized billing office for the physician side. And I was able to have a hand in it. That was great. Then I got the opportunity to actually manage a larger practice in Greensboro.
Mhm.
Loved working there. I worked there for a few years and loved that office. It was three different specialties. So each time in my career, it's always been a level, up.
Yeah,
And
stepping
so, which
stone.
is, yeah, stepping stones. And, of course, my intention of going to that practice was, not this sitting a stepping stone, it's
Yeah,
just a way it kind of worked out. Then
sure.
a job opportunity opened up at Coronado Clinic in Burlington. And I had the privilege of working for a wonderful administrator, Mike Lunsford, who to this day I adore. He's such a good mentor and such a good leader, like a servant leader is how I look at
Mhm.
him. And
Mm.
so I was their revenue cycle director. So at that time, I think they had 18 specialties. I think it was about 80 providers, 80 to 90 providers, and three locations. So while I was there, my intention was not to ever leave there. I was going to retire there. I loved working there. And then the Lord opened up a door for me to open Rockingham Revenue Services. And as they say, the rest is history. And I hope I get to do this till I take my last breath or till I retire, which comes first, whatever comes first. So, yeah.
Awesome, awesome. And I think you and I connected. I think you told me that you heard me speak at an MGMA event. Is that correct?
Actually, it was back when I was at the hospital still, 'cause, it was probably, like, maybe 2009 or 10, you had spoke at the health they used to have the hospital health conference they would have in Greensboro,
Okay.
and I heard you speak there, and I was blown away, and the topic you talked about was how, people aren't just numbers. And you spoke about your dad and how that he had went to the hospital and like he was like a number. And I remember you talking about it's been so I cannot believe I remember this, but the how he was just like there's no room, so they just kind of had him shoved in a hallway with a number. It's like no, this is a person. Like we've got to
Mhm.
change this. And I just remembered that specifically. And what I learned from that is that when we're handling patients and their care, whether it be financially or physically, they're real people. They're not just a chart number in the charts.
Absolutely.
They're real people. So I learned a lot from that and still remember that. And then we reconnected a few years
Mhm.
ago through MGMA and I hired as my business coach and so should you all. Anyone wants to listen, you should, because that's my seamless plug for Mary Kay.
Thank you.
So you're very welcome.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that I admire about you is your leadership journey. And when you had reached out to me, you were the incoming president for the MGMA group, the Medical Group Managers Association of Greensboro. And I think when we had our introductory call, you had some goals you wanted to achieve and really uh, striving for that work life integration was important. But who are some of the, besides the gentleman you mentioned from Coronado, who are other some of the leadership influences that you've had in your walk?
I would say during the time, there was one period of time that when I was in school,
Hmm.
I worked for a boiler company.
Mm,
And so I was still doing medical billing for a provider on the side, but I was working for him and I was going to school. And I did that for a few years. And it has nothing to do with healthcare, but
right.
business wise, his name was Bob Lewis, and he's passed a few years ago. And his wife Nancy, they started the business from scratch,
Mm,
built a business, and it wound up being just a huge business. But one thing I loved about Bob is that whatever he said, he meant it. Like
mm,
if he quoted you $10,000 for a boiler, but when they got in there, they wound up having to spend $12,000. He still did it for 10 because that's what
oh
he
wow.
told you. I mean, like he was just very organized, very much a people person because like when I would answer the phone, I can remember there was one guy, one of his clients, who would call and say, "What's old Bob Lewis doing? Nothing today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, he does nothing every day. Like I'm up here working and he's just back in the office with his feet propped up." And so they would get on the phone, you could hear them laughing down the hallway, but he'd been a customer of his for 20 years. And I thought, that's just the way it is being personal with your customers. That taught me a lot. And then
Mhm.
I've had several. Vicky Hansen, the director I talked about earlier, I loved her. She was just the realest person I think I had ever met as a manager.
Mhm.
She was not a person that always said yes,
Mm,
but she was a person who would advocate not just for patients, but
right.
for her team. Like if she saw something that, this isn't right, we can't do this, or my team's not doing that, you know?
Right,
Like, and
right, sure.
she really did advocate for us and just a real genuine person, and her leadership style was just being there for people.
Mm,
And I could listen number and like I said, I already mentioned Mike and how wonderful he was. But yeah, I would say those are probably my top three people that
mhm.
I just really got inspired by along the way, that
Sure,
kind of
sure.
took you under your wing and was like, okay, here's how you lead, and here's how you do it well. And that kind of stuff. So yeah, I love them.
So, what do you think's been one of your biggest learning lessons from life or leadership over the years that really has made an impact on you?
Well, one of the biggest lessons for me is for me to have realized I can't do this all by myself.
Mm,
And you have to have a team. Not just a team of anyone, but a team that is committed to doing the right things when it's hard, a team who's committed to doing stellar work.
mm,
For me, in leadership, I want to be able to provide that culture for them
sure.
and for not just for them to do their work, but for them to grow. The professional development's a huge thing too for me, even for me over the years.
Mhm, mhm. Well, and I think, one of the things that I admire about your leadership for your group is, yes, you and I have been working one-on-one together going on 4.5 years, but that
Yeah.
you've endorsed professional development for your team. So every quarter, we're able to focus on some core concepts that they need to help them learn, to help them grow, to help them lead. And you brought up the word culture, Janet. So share with our audience some of the aspects of the culture of Rockingham Revenue Services.
I think one of the main culture here is work-life balance, which we talk about all the time.
Mhm.
One of the things that as going into opening this business, working in a practice setting, you're not able to always have that balance because
Right.
someone has to be at the front desk to check people in. So someone has to see the patient. So you
Right.
can't really have that as much as you can with having a position where you pretty much can work anywhere as long as you have Wi-Fi,
Right. Sure.
kind of stuff, and security set up and all that kind of thing. But I really wanted to provide a space for women or men. We don't currently have any men working for us, but that would have an opportunity to go to their kids' thing at school if they wanted to, eat lunch with them. If they're out sick, stay home with them while they're sick. And you can work while they're home, but stay home while they're sick.
Sure.
If you're sick, stay home, saying like just to be able to have that flexibility and to be able to turn it off at 5 o'clock or whenever, their at working hours are and be with their family and their friends and that kind of stuff, which is what I've worked really hard to do. And it has not been easy. And Mary Kay knows it has not been an easy thing. I think that's my biggest culture for us around here and just for us to be honest and admit when we've messed up and to be able to own our responsibility in the situation.
Absolutely.
And just family. Like
Mm.
we've 7 years, okay? I tell them all the time, like, we're with each other more than our family. And I was like, we've been through a lot of stuff, like grief, loss, like
Mm.
just, but we've also celebrated weddings and babies and, birthdays and all the things, anniversaries, so we've gotten to see the good and the bad in each other too and support each
Absolutely.
other. So I think it's a big deal.
Well, and one of your early goals was to avoid taking your computer home so much and to carve out Wednesday afternoons so that you could be Jan for your
Yes.
grandkids. And in that season, when I watched you apply certain organizational tools and boundaries and delegating more efficiently, your productivity increased and
Uh-huh.
your joy factor for work and life increased because you were
Yeah.
able to spend that quality time. So, what encouragement would you give to other people to set some better boundaries on technology so you can be fully present?
Well, sometimes I'm great at it, like anybody, and sometimes I'm not. We all have setbacks, okay? But I do feel like it's important because the work's still going to be there.
Absolutely.
Uh, unless something is just so, or like there's a patient that, is bleeding out or something, and they've got to have a coding situation, which never happens with us, there, it can wait till tomorrow.
Sure.
Um, and carving out is to me, it's more about the quality of time and not so much quantity,
Mhm.
because I do run a business and I do have things I have to do and get done outside of, you know, doing my actual work. You know what I'm saying? Like that other things that has to run a business has to be done. And so for me to carve out time to be able to have those moments that of joy that I love and accept and appreciate, it does make me a better person. You can't I feel like, this is my own opinion, you can't take care of other people if you're empty. If
Oh,
you're completely empty, you can't
I got
pour into them.
goosebumps when you
I
said that.
know. You can't pour into them if you're
Mhm.
empty. And I come from a background of, faith, and my dad was pastor growing up in church and that kind of stuff. And I heard preachers all the time say that.
Mhm.
I would see leaders in churches and other, like, I mean, just pour their whole selves into a business or a church and then just be depleted
Wow.
and not be effective. And that's not one, it's not good for your health.
Right.
And your not just your physical health, but your mental health.
Mhm.
That's a huge thing for me. So I always recommend whatever that looks like. If it's
Mm.
I'm gonna go every week for an hour and get a massage, you should do that.
Right.
Um, yeah, or if I want to take 2 hours for lunch one day instead of in 30 minutes for lunch at my desk, shoving food down my mouth while I'm trying to
Right.
type at work,
Sure.
do that. Do that. I know I have to tell this story. One time, when I was at one of my locations, there was a operations manager who I respect tremendously. I love her. We're still friends to this day. She worked 25/8. I mean, like, she was a machine. She was single mom. Her kids were in college, so, she went home to empty house every day, like, so she worked all the time. And so when I first started there, I was like, we would have meetings, and I'm like, "Let's go to lunch," and we were attached to a hospital that had a cafeteria, so we just go eat outside. And we would do that about every other week. And so about 3 or 4 months into that, she goes, "Do you realize," she said, "that I have ate more away from my desk since you've been here than I have the entire time I've been here?" I said, "Yes, because I'm trying to get you away from your desk."
Excellent. Well, and baby steps, right? Sometimes one small change can
Yes.
can be that tip to the iceberg. And
Yes.
there was a significant change that happened about a year and a half ago. I got a phone call on a Thursday early evening, and you and your husband were supposed to come visit me at the beach.
Yeah, the next
And,
day.
and it was Brittany, your right hand woman,
Mhm.
and I remember the tentativeness in her voice, and I wasn't sure what to prepare for, and when she said that your house had caught on fire, my very first thing I said was, "Are they okay?"
Yeah.
And in that moment, Janet, I had this, whew, overwhelming peace.
Yeah.
Know that y'all were okay, because I share that because some people know that I served as an adjunct hospital chaplain for 3 years, and,
Yeah.
every day is a gift, and we're not guaranteed tomorrow, so knowing that y'all were okay was so important. And when we had our conversation, what was something that you responded to me about the situation?
Well, in all situations, normally, I always tell people, I'm just like, I'm the calm in the storm. That's the way the Lord made me, and I'm so thankful for that because there's been lots of storms that I've had to be the calm. But when you called, I said, "You're okay. I'm utilizing the tools that you taught me." That's what I said, and I said, I can't. There's some things I can control right now, and some things I can't. So I'm gonna rely on that right now, and
Yeah.
then tomorrow I'll let you know how I'm doing.
Absolutely. And you navigated that season well with having to transplant into a new
Yeah,
home for a season and then
that's
building a brand
wild.
new home. And
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things that I really admire about you, Janet, is your faith as your foundation. And
Yes.
how do you think that that's really helped you with business, with life, with relationships?
Well, I said the other day I did a little Instagram story. We just got back from a camp of high school students, and we tell them all the time, you can't do anything in this life without Jesus. Like, I
Mm.
literally can't do anything. I wouldn't be able to get up in the morning. I wouldn't be able to breathe. I wouldn't be able to think. I mean, and so because my faith is strong in that I have to rely on him. Like, there have been so many times, like, I've been better since I've been with Mary Kay, obviously, doing my quiet time, doing my journaling. I have my journals, I go back on them, I'm like, "Wow, I forgot about that happened. Look at that. Look what God did," you know? But even, like, I've wrote in my journal before, like, "Lord, I need your help in this. Like, I don't know how this is gonna happen. I don't know what this is gonna look like." And 2 days later, I'm writing in there, "Gosh, thank you, Lord, thank you so much for helping me." Like, that was awesome. Like, you showed up, I knew you would, that kinda stuff. And, just being able to have that one-on-one time with him every day, and I'm pretty consistent about it. Obviously, there are times when I'm not, but and
Mm,
I feel it when I'm not. Oh my gosh, you probably do too. You're like,
I
"Okay,
do.
we're disconnected from everything." But what it has done for me in my business is to have what I've heard over the years is just a servant leadership.
Mm, mm,
Realizing that I am serving people, just like if I'm at church, I'm serving the youth at our church or the 4th grade, well, excuse me, they're 5th grade girls now, 5th grade girls at our church, whatever that is, I'm serving them to help them see that the love of Jesus is all they need and that he will help you through all these things.
mm.
And being in conversation, like hard conversations with clients sometimes, and being able to not want to jump through the computer at them. I mean, I'm saying, like, I just have to
Absolutely,
having
absolutely.
somebody holding me back because, I mean, I'm human like everybody else, and
Sure.
sometimes I want to do that, but I know that's not effective. Like, what's
Right.
that gonna do? And that just doesn't hold up to our mission and values we have here, which is integrity.
Mm,
That's a big thing for me, and being honest, and,
mhm.
owning your mistakes and all that kinda stuff. So, yeah, I definitely, I could talk about Jesus all day long. We could have a whole podcast about it, so
Well, and you made me think about 2 books that I read before I took the position of Director of Patient and Family Experience. It was called Sacred Work and Radical Loving Care, and the gentleman
Mm,
that wrote these 2 books, he was an attorney that went back to school and, became a hospital administrator, and his philosophy was that he wanted Jesus at the center of every single interaction that took place in the hospital. So if the patients and the team, everybody's intersecting through this spiritual connection, then everybody is going to be a priority
yeah,
and be taken care of with radical
right.
loving care. And I bring that up because we talked about self-care in the beginning and now we've talked about serving others. And I think the only way for us to truly serve others is to serve ourselves first. And that's not selfish. That's not a
Yeah,
selfish perspective. And that's been something I've even been working on the last couple of years. But I want to highlight the importance of whatever your faith journey is, whatever your faith walk looks like, having that belief in a higher power is so important because you're never really alone, and you
mhm.
also can have that guidance and that centeredness, and being able to pray with you sometimes is, um, a pure joy that I have and
I love that.
something that, was a comfort zone stretcher for me to do the first time with a client.
Yeah,
But I value that very much, and as we sort of come in for a landing here, I want you to think of this question, Janet. If you were gonna talk to your younger self and give your younger self some words of wisdom or encouragement, what would you
okay.
say?
Well, I would probably mainly say don't be afraid to take risk.
Mm,
Like, be okay taking risks and be okay making mistakes,
mm,
because you're going to, and be able, to learn from them because there are going to be challenges, and just preparing yourself for something bigger that you can't see sometimes. That's going through the hard challenge. You don't realize how much that's going to help you later on down the road. And like we talked about earlier, just protecting that work life balance, not being afraid to grow and learn. I say all the time, will be till I guess till the day I take my last breath, a learner. I want to be. My
mm,
sister jokes that they have a master's of business, and she goes, "You should get your doctorate." And I would go, "I'm not getting my doctorate." I'm like, "I'm not diagnosing a patient. I'm not doing that." But I am a lifelong learner because in this industry of medical, it changes every second of every day, and you have to know. You got to be up on the new things that are happening, like the AI intelligence and all that kind of stuff that's, coming down the pike. And it's
or
I'll be here for you know it and all the things. But I really do think just not trying to measure my business so much by success, but honestly trying to measure it by the people that I surround myself with and the people that I, work with. You know what I'm saying? I think that's and
Absolutely.
how they grow. To me, that's what success is. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you, Janet. And if people want to reach out to you, how can they do that?
So we have a few ways. We have a website, Rockingham Revenue Services .com, I believe, or .org. It's one of those. Sorry, I can't remember which one. But if you
I'll
Google,
put it in the
yes,
description.
if you Google Rockingham Revenue Services, you can reach out to us. You can reach out through my email, which is jwoodall at rockinghamrevenueservices.org. Either one of those, or you can call my cell phone number, which is 336-932-3506. We do have an office phone number, but I just tell people to call my cell phone number. It's easier to get a hold of me that way than
Oh,
through the office sometimes. So either one of those, we'd love to be able to service your medical team with whatever needs that they currently have and whatever that looks like. So yeah, thanks for Mary Kay for having me on your podcast today. It's exciting.
absolutely. Thank you, Janet. And again, my name is Merikay Hunt, and our firm is dedicated to creating catalysts for positive, purposeful change. We want to help you and your team go to the next level of performance. So I hope you'll reach out to us as well, coachmkay.com. Please follow and subscribe to our podcast. We look forward to you enjoying more episodes, and blessings to you, and make every day count.